Hello, welcome back to another Adobe Live. Rufus, can you hear us, or are you just part of the party?
There we go. Good morning, everyone.
Oh my goodness. Happy Friday, guys. This is the Tony Harmer Show. We're back. We missed last week, so we're even more excited about today, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And
the end of the week.
Tony's the only one in fancy dress. Yeah, wrapping it up.
This is
Bank
the last
holiday
time,
weekend.
though. And this is actually what I wear normally on
Wait.
after 3 o'clock.
Tony, it's not the last time. It's the last time for the fancy dress.
No, I mean for the last time for the fancy dress.
Okay.
Yeah, for a little while. Yeah.
Let's reassure everyone. We're getting into routines. Creatures of habit.
Oh.
So,
It's nice
how's
being
everyone
able to
doing? Let's
start
know in the
people's
chat.
weekends. It's really good. Really good. Yeah.
Feel good factor. And it's a long weekend.
I can do like a little alien impression, like.
You look like Bane. What Batman? That's the fancy dress challenge from now on, folks. Is using something that is on your desk or your sofa or around you, create a fancy dress, a convincing fancy dress from those items. For me, it's easy because, as you know, I always have a ready supply of hats, just all around the place here. It's just amazing. You should be the person that does this, honestly. Anyway.
Awesome. Welcome back in the chat. I see it's very active already. Everybody's back. Dee, Kirsty, Sandrine, Eudalia. Who else is here? Oh, Oliver, Jackie, Bob. Scary Friday. That's right, Bob. And wow, so active in the chat already. So remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's fine. But if you scoot on over to behance.net/live, we are also here, and that's where the chat is active, and that's what we're looking at, and that's where you will be able to ask us and, of course, Tony all the questions you want. And this is the benefit of being live, to ask questions in real time. And also remember that we have a Discord for this Adobe Live with UK artists, and we're getting close to 300, I think, people already in there chatting around in between streams. And it's great to see that we can join as a community, not only here on Adobe Live, but also on the Discord channel, and continue the conversations there, show off our work, and get feedback and inspiration there as well. And today, of course, is the Tony Harmer Show. Tony, what have you prepared for us today?
Well, today, Rufus, on the Tony Harmer Show, we're going to do some After Effects stuff that we were going to do last week. Now, for some of the people who come to the stream regularly, they joined me, just a small number of them joined me last Friday on YouTube for me to stream some of that content. But I've swapped it out a little bit, so there'll be some of the stuff that was seen last week by those people, but of course that's only a small fraction of our audience. So it'll be that. We're going to mix some stuff up in After Effects and have a little bit of fun with that. In fact, if I just show you the ident, if we just roll my little ident here, right, you can see that it's got a little title for the Tony Harmer Show, and then Space Cats coming in there, Rufus, Tim, and Emma. I'm not going to tell you which one's which. You'll have to write your answers in.
You have to.
Well, the one on the, let me just
oh, that was easy.
just take you to that particular frame. So this one here, this one is Rufus on the side here. This one is Emma over on the right hand side.
Nice.
And in the background, putting stickers all over the place, that's Tim. So Tim comes along, puts a Space Cat sticker down just there, and then signs it with recorded in Tim Vision with a live audience just at the back there. Now, the Space Cats and the Tim Vision, they may not make it into today's thing. We'll just have to see how we go. But you're going to learn a little bit about how Illustrator and Photoshop files and the way you work with those programs. Some of that knowledge is really, really useful because essentially After Effects has quite a lot of things that you are probably familiar with. So just for example, if I went to the layer menu here in After Effects, you'll see there are blending modes. Now, there are a few additional blending modes here because video is slightly different, but you've got blending modes. You've also got the same shortcuts, incidentally, to cycle blending modes. Okay, so Shift minus and Shift equals, yeah, to cycle through those. So exactly the same. You've got layer styles. So After Effects actually understands layer styles in Photoshop. So if you're using them, okay, then you'll be able to port those across, most of those across into After Effects. Not all, of course, but there's always something that escapes the net of all, but quite a lot. The only additional thing you really need to understand to get started with After Effects is the next dimension. So in Illustrator and Photoshop, we deal with X and Y, so across and down and so on. Okay, and in After Effects, the dimension that we have that is additional is time, and that is represented down here in the timeline panel. And you have this nice little blue thing just here, that's called the CTI, yeah, which sounds like a government body, but it's not. The CTI, that's the current time indicator, or some people even call it a playhead. If you're one of those risque people that calls it a playhead, you're with me.
Risque.
Yeah, risque.
Love it.
Yeah, adventurous, outgoing, bold by calling it a playhead. But video people, they have different names for everything. So it's the CTI, and they have different names for lots of things. And you'll hear names like bins. That's just video person speak for a folder. There you go.
I'll just call it the playhead.
Playhead's good. Playhead works, doesn't it? Right? Everybody can understand that. And we're not going to be video people here. We're very unlikely, right, to actually go ahead and make a Hollywood blockbuster, although you never know, right? But it is nice to be able to add these skills, especially at the moment, right? It's great. You've got a bit of an opportunity to learn some additional things and improve your general position in the workplace. You know, you can go ahead and say, yeah, I've got some experience with video. Always be honest about the level of experience you've got, just so you've got some. Now, when we're done here today, if you want to open up After Effects, because this is the thing, the majority of people get Creative Cloud Complete because it makes financial sense to do so, but they don't really explore all of these other things. They stay in Photoshop, they stay in Illustrator, they stay in InDesign, and they think, oh no, I don't want to open that. Or when they do open it, it's got so many controls, it would frighten a jet pilot. And this is what we need to do. We need to kind of unravel that and explore it. Now, when we're done,
and we had a very cool stream yesterday with Julia talking about Adobe Dimension and Adobe Aero and putting all these things together. And yeah, exploration is, you know, and especially now, you know, that we have maybe a little bit more time. Explore.
Yeah, and find the bits that sit well with you, and then just start drilling in. But with pretty much everything, all of the apps have some mechanism or another for you to learn things. Now in After Effects, it's actually very, very interactive. So when you first launch After Effects, you'll be greeted with a big window that gives you a load of different things, and you've got something about learning there as well. But just in case you don't see that, right, you can always click and start a new project, and you'll get a blank After Effects interface. So all of the different windows here would be empty. You then come up to this region up here on the top right. So I'm just moving my cursor here. You'll see the word default in blue. And right next to that, okay, is learn. And this just changes the workspace so you can start learning. And when you do that, this panel will open just here. The first thing, because whenever you go anywhere new, it's a good idea to find your way around, takes you around the interface. So it says, these are the things you need to worry about to start off with. So you need to know where the project panel is. That's where all of your assets are. You need to know where the timeline is, and the CTI, or controversially playhead, just there. And of course the composition window just here. Okay. And then you can go through this nice tutorial here, the basics. And what that actually does is it gets you to, it's all of the assets are in there, gets you to load a little logo file and animate that on and off the screen. And then there's a background video which you get to mirror. So you create a really sort of stylized social movie in around about 20 minutes. Yeah, that should be the learning time to do it. But do explore that. You can't hurt the file. There's nothing you can hurt by doing it. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the default workspace just here now. So the main window here is the composition. That's the output really that will be made from After Effects. On the left-hand side here, the project. So you can see I've got some Photoshop files just here and some Illustrator files, and then the timeline down at the bottom where all of those files are being animated. All right, so that's what we've got. And across here, just some additional panels. When we're using one of these, you'll notice as you click through them, the others expand and collapse. It looks frightening at the moment, but don't be frightened. And especially by this long list, because I'm going to show you how to work with that list. There is nothing here that's going to hurt you or your machine or your work. All right, it's a great playground. And once you've got it, I call this Photoshop on wheels, because that's effectively what it is. It can take a Photoshop file and then move it through time, which is great. And that's why I'm in the TARDIS today, by the way, because I've been moving stuff through time. Just in case you wondered why is Tony dressed as a pirate, but he's in the TARDIS. Now you know. Right.
There's context for everyone joining.
That's it. You see, so again. So look at the screen going,
what's going on at Adobe? Someone give them a break.
But I mean, it is kind of questionable to be dressed as a pirate in the software business, but it's
somehow everyone loves it.
Somehow everyone loves it, and my Viking hat's at the cleaners. So anyway, there we go. Right, so let's just jump. Before we get stuck into After Effects, I'm actually going to close this panel, just this project. So it's going to come down here and close project. So this is a nice, clean, blank After Effects interface. There you go. All right. Now, before we do anything in here, let's go and examine a file. Okay, so here I am in an Illustrator file for the ident that you saw earlier on. Now, I'm just going to open up the layers here. I'll turn the visibility off for all of them for a moment, and then I'll turn them on one after the other. So I've got this kind of circular thing here, okay, which is the inner circle. Then I've got the center mark over the top of it. Now, the reason it's over the top, okay, is so that the other wheel can move quite comfortably without seeing the gap inside of it. And this is the only thing you might have to think about as you go on and develop things, learn how to structure it. But it will make sense to you. Start small, okay, and work your way forward, right? And you'll get it. Honestly, this is really, really easy to do, right? Once you get over the initial hurdles, okay, and that's what we'll hopefully do today. And then I've got this mid ring just here. Again, there's a slight difference in size to the ring underneath there, so they overlap somewhat. That's not critical. It's just because I might do something interesting with it if I get the chance. Then an outer ring. Then I've got the text here. This is all live text. So if I needed to change that, for example, if we move to like Thursdays or whatever, then I haven't painted myself into a corner and expanded it.
Yes, I didn't tell you yet, but yeah, you can change that already, like every day at 12 p.m., okay?
Yeah. We could have InDesign Week, we could have after. Anyway, right, so then we've got the Space Cat sticker just here. Okay.
With the matching colors.
Well, yeah. I went for as loud as is possible without actually tearing everybody's eyes out. Burning out their retinas. So I built this out. Now you'll notice that some of the content here is
it does hurt though, you know, a little bit.
Oh man, it does, honestly. Yeah. It is. I've got a particular name for this sort of color arrangement, but I'm not going to share it. But anyway, not on air. Anyway, so you will see that some of the content, okay, extends beyond the artboard. Now, what I'm hopefully going to do here, okay, is I'm going to unravel a mystery for a lot of people who work in After Effects, yeah, from Illustrator early on, and try and import a file. And just to show you what I mean by that, we're going to pop back to After Effects. And when there's nothing in the composition window, it gives you two helpful little buttons just here. So you can create a new composition, which will just create you an empty comp. And for a composition, think of like a document. So an After Effects project is itself like a folder. It's everything collected together in one place, okay? And a composition is like a document inside that. I'm going to go new composition from footage, okay? And I go out here to my incredibly messy desktop. Oops. Right, so I go into this folder just here, and I'm going to go down to this Illustrator file, which I'll just preview for you. There it is, the same file. I feel like a magician when I do that. Here it is. Look, it's your card. This is Emma's card. Anyway, so I've got some options in here, slightly different in Windows, slightly different place, but exactly the same things are available. That's important to notice. So I'm going to go for composition. I'm also going to choose retain layer sizes because otherwise everything comes in at the same size. And if you've got a small asset with a big frame around it, that can sometimes be a bit unsettling. You can check create composition, but it will do that anyway, because when you click open, okay, it will go ahead. It creates the composition just there. Okay, so this is the whole document, and underneath it a little folder with all of the things. So I'm going to double click on the composition that it made for me. Okay, so here it is, everything's there. Here are all my folders, and I'm going to come back to the whys and wherefores of this in just a second, right? But I'm going to choose the outer ring just here, and in fact I'll turn off the visibility for everything else just there. Okay, so we're just seeing that outer ring. We all good so far?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to tap R on my keyboard. And when I'm focused on this panel, you can always tell which panel you're focused on because that's the blue line around it. If you just observe just there, if I go through. Okay, I'm going to tap R. Okay, and that takes me through to the rotation properties. Now I'll talk about that more in a moment, but if I get this outer ring here and rotate it, oh dear, can you see what's happened? It's because it's gone to the edges of my document. Ooh, not
in your
wanted.
case, the edge of space.
The edge of space. It's where I live.
Yeah,
it's where I live. I'm just gonna undo that. Okay, back to this. Now, I'm quite often asked, because Illustrator is kind of my main thing, right? I'm quite often asked in Illustrator, why can you put artboards within artboards? Why would you do that? Well, there are many reasons why you might do it, but in the context of video, right, that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I've got my artboard in the middle just here. If I go for the artboard tool, which is the shortcut for that, by the way, is Shift-O, okay, on your keyboard. And I'm going to go to sort of the outside edges. My smart guide's here helping me with that, okay, and I'm going to.
Or you can just click on the object.
Could do that as well. Could actually. Do you know what? I don't think I knew that. That's interesting. Now I have to send you a glossy sticker. You only get glossy stickers if you show me something. There's only 50 of them. If you show me something I genuinely didn't know in Illustrator, and I don't think I did. No, I didn't. There you go. See, Rufus has still got it.
I still got it. After all these years, Tony.
It's the Rufus show.
Still got it. It's still in there. Yeah. Doesn't matter how many followers you've got, it's what's in there. It's the important thing. Right, so I've drawn an additional artboard. Now, I like safety nets. It's not essential, this part, right, but I do like safety nets. So I am going to just resize this. I'm holding down Alt or Option here to make my resizing work from the center, and Shift to keep it constrained. And I'm just going just a little bit beyond the edges of that shape. So now I have two artboards. Now, ordinarily, that can do a few things with output, but that's kind of what it's doing when it gets to After Effects. So now if I save that and go back to After Effects and create my new composition from footage, go to the same file, choose composition, retain layer sizes, tap open. Now when we go ahead, even before I add this stuff to the timeline, you'll see here that if I click and move down the list, I can see all of the things. They're all there. And in fact, if I go into the composition and choose outer, so I've just clicked on it to highlight it. Again, I'm going to rotate it. Ta-da! Super groovy. I'm here.
Adobe Cadabra.
Adobe Cadabra. I used to follow that when I used to do that. It was cool.
You remember, Tony, in the good old days?
Yeah, I do. I do. We've known each other quite a long time.
I never felt so left out.
Well, we must have known each other about 15 years ago.
All right, guys.
Right, moving on.
Just breaking the romance a little bit.
Right, so let's get some animation in this thing. Let's get some things doing. Now, I actually don't need Tim Vision or the Space Cat sticker right now. So I'm just highlighting them here in the timeline, and I'm just going to remove them like so. Okay, just I don't need them for the moment. They're there should I need them in the future. What I am going to do though is I am going to grab everything here. So that's as simple as selecting objects inside of a document. Click on one, okay, hold down shift and click on another, and it selects that whole range. We could use the word contiguous, but it's a bit pretentious, so we'll just say next to each other.
Yeah.
So, then what we're going to do is we're going to change their position. Now, we can do that if we choose by hitting this disclosure arrow. And when you hit the disclosure arrow, it shows you all of the different properties that can be changed. However, right, that looks a bit scary, scary Mary, right? So not that I've got nothing against people called Mary. I'm just saying it just rhymes with the scary bit. We know that the first letter, okay, of position is P. Suddenly they're all lit up like so. Their position property is visible. We also know the first letter of scale is S. The scale property is lit up. Oh my word! Right. We also know the first letter of opacity doesn't count. Because despite the fact we talk about the opacity property, video people like additional syllables where they can, because they're paid by the syllable. So what they prefer is T for transparency, and then we get opacity. They are, you know, different sides of the same coin, but that's the way it works. To be honest, pressing keys isn't going to hurt you. Yeah, so just try them out anyway. So I'm going to tap P for position.
It might just wear down the keyboard a little bit.
You'd have to be going at it quite a long time, really. In our lifetimes, how many keyboards have we worn out? Without spilling coffee on. Then we've got some properties here. Now, the first property is the X property, so where it is side to side. The next property, okay, is the Y property, upsy downsy. And my favorite piece of user interface, stapler accident finger, is there, which means you can click and drag with stapler accident finger and change all of their positions at the same time. Now, I like this very much. And so I'm just going to drag like so, bigger numbers in this thing because the 0 point is the top left-hand corner. Bigger numbers make it go down the screen. Whoa, super groovy. So they're in position because I think that will be nice to have it slightly offset, I think. That's really good. Then I'm going to click underneath those because I don't want them all selected here. And I'm going to click on outer. Then I'm going to hold down Command. This will be Control on Windows because I don't want all of them neighboring. I will click on mid. That's the one in the middle. And I will click on inner one just there. In fact, I double clicked on it. So I've actually ended up going into it, but not to worry. I can just get rid of that just for the minute. Okay, just in case you didn't see that, by the way, let me just do that again. Here in the composition window, you can drill down into your composition. And all I did here was drill down to that member of this cast. So I'm just going to close that up. There's a little X next to it like so, and away it goes. So now I want rotation. So I'm going to tap R for rotation, which is super good. And I want to keyframe this rotation. So what I do is I come along and I click the stopwatch just here. That's what allows you to create keyframes. And because I have those three layers selected, it lights up for all of them and it creates a keyframe on the timeline. That is a particular state for it to go to. Now I'll move the controversially named playhead to the end of the composition like so. Okay. And then I'm going to make a change. And as soon as I make a change, it will add another keyframe at the end there. So I'm going to rotate this. Let's click on this instead of doing stapler accident finger. And I'm going to type 359 there, 359 degrees. And it does that. Now, if I scrub the playhead backwards and forwards, they are all doing that thing. And everybody suddenly has an ocular migraine. Good. However, that would make for a very, very boring animation. It will be so much nicer if the middle one was moving the other way. So what I can do is, okay, I can click here. Now it's important that you move your playhead back to where the keyframes are, or you will create a new keyframe. And just over here, I'm just going to zoom in again. You'll see here a key. This tells me there's a keyframe exactly under the playhead right now. And I can actually navigate keyframes using these arrows. So you'll see if I click on the arrow now, I go to the next keyframe, which is at the end, click on the front one again, and it's back to the beginning. Okay, so what I'm going to do here with the mid one, just here, is I am going to change the value. Now it's exactly the same at the beginning, so I'll go to the other end, and instead of 359, I'm just going to drop a minus in front of that, which will make it go in the opposite direction. So now if I come to the front here, and now we've got something that's much more interesting. Yeah. Now you can play the timeline at any time, okay, by just holding down the space bar. What's up, Rufus?
Rufus has to take a break.
I'm going to calm it down any time about now.
It's hypnotizing.
It's hit, yeah. Ooh, give me your bank
subliminal messages.
Yeah. Give me your bank account details. Send them to Tony. Anyway, right. Anyway, I do hope the audience are loving these little hypno-suggestion things that I keep throwing in just there. And of course, because they're working, they'll all be going, yes, we do.
And this is actually hour 15 of the stream. You've been saying going. People have no idea.
All day. Right, so I've selected all three of those things again. Now I'm going to calm down that color just a little bit. Okay, and the way I'm going to calm it down is with a layer style. So I'm going to go ahead here. Okay, I am going to come down to layer styles, and I am going to choose inner shadow. Okay, now when I do that, it adds an effect. Now suddenly that looks scary. You don't need to worry too much about that, to be perfectly honest, right? But all it's doing is describing the styles for the layer, because all the layers are done at the same time or selected. They'll all be done at the same time. So I'll just twirl open the inner shadow property. This is the color for it. This is how opaque it is. And then I need to come down to size. Just here, stapler accident finger will just go ahead and add me, okay, a nice big shadow like so. And let's increase the opacity of that as well. Okay, the blend mode multiply. So there you are, the little blend modes again. All good stuff, right? So now we've got that. That does have the effect of calming down the color a little bit, perhaps not quite enough for Rufus's eyes, but there you go. Now, you might think, oh, I've got all these things open now. There's all these things and it looks scary. There's another key you can press because this is important to you, right? So you press U on your keyboard and they all go away. They're still there. They're just hidden. In fact, U is a way to quickly reveal any properties that are set, right? It won't do anything else. It will just show you properties that are set, right? So you can get to them quickly. And you can go from a state like this. If you had just one selected and then you selected that, you can just go UU very quickly and it expands everything like so, right? So again, it's by tapping that key, it's hurt nothing at all, right? But we've got something for it. Right, let's move on. So we need to do something with the layer with the text on now, right? Because that's just sat there. And I would like this to come spinning in, okay, the opposite way around and be much bigger. So I'm going to tap S on my keyboard, okay? And I am going to take the playhead to the point where I would like the text to be at the correct size, which is going to be about here. Again, ordinarily, if I wasn't teaching this, if I was doing this as a real project, I would have storyboarded this out, so I knew where I was going with it. But as it's something I've designed for teaching, there isn't one today. It's in here, like the InDesign one the other week. Like so. Moving on, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the stopwatch, which adds me that keyframe. So it's in exactly the right place at exactly the right scale. I'm then going to move this back a bit like so, and I'm going to make it real big. Now the properties are linked. You can see there's a small link icon just there. I go ahead and take that right the way out. So it's bigger than the actual viewing area. Okay. And then it will automatically in between that state. Groovy. Yeah. Now I'm going to take it back to the previous keyframe. So I'm going to use my little arrow just here. Okay. And again, to go to the beginning. Then I'm going to tap R on my keyboard, which switches to rotate. Okay. Now, actually, I do want to see both of those properties. So I can tap U. So now I can see both of them. So I can navigate with the keyframes set for the scale and do interesting stuff with the rotation. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is manually add a keyframe by just clicking in this diamond. Another way you can do it. And now that's set. I'll go back to the previous keyframe, and then I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to say 720 degrees, and After Effects says, yeah, whatever, Tone, that's fine. You could have just typed 2 in there. That would have worked as well. But that's important to know. You don't have to sit there and do big calculations if you're thinking, oh, I want to go 1 and 1.35 rotations. What is that? Just type in the number and it will count how many rotations you need. So now it is rotating and scaling at the same time. Ooh, like that. So we'll just actually play that. It looks slower at the moment because it has to render all of these frames. Perfect. Okay, and you can see this little green line here. This shows you what it's rendered. Now, if I went back to the beginning of that green line and hit the space bar, you'd see it in pretty much real time. There you go. Excellent. So now what I want to do is one more thing. So I'm going to go back to the last keyframe there. I'm going to tap T, the first letter of opacity. This T is silent.
No, like Tim said, it's opacity T. It's
Ooh.
Very good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to click here for the stopwatch. I am then going to go back just a little way, right? Just here. I'm not doing the whole thing so they're exactly equal here. And I'm going to set this to 0. Okay, so I've got 3 things happening now. That motion will be happening, and then the opacity will be happening at the same time. And in that comes like that. Excellent. So that's good. Now it's time for some space cats. We need some space cats. So
finally.
I know you've been waiting for the space cats.
That moment.
Yeah, this is the moment when Tony wants to get viral.
Yes, like, I do.
As soon as the cats come in, that's where this.
That sounds so wrong, Mary. But yeah, when the cats come in, everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So I happen to have some cats. What I'm going to do here is this is another quick way to get to import stuff into your project. No icons because you've outgrown the icons already. You don't need them. There is one down the bottom here, but you don't need it. You can just double click in that window and it goes, okay, you want to import some stuff. Let's do that then. Okay. And here I've got 3 different space cats. So I've got Astro Cat, that's Tim at the back there. And I've got Space Cat 2. Yeah, that's Rufus. And then I've got Space Cat 3. That's Emma just over there. Like so.
Nice.
See? I'm going to bring in Astro Cat, and I don't actually need any of the layers. There are layers there. I don't need them. So I'm going to bring this in as footage, which basically flattens everything. And just to confirm that, I get a little thing here which says, are you sure you want to do that? I'm going, yeah, I do, footage. And you can choose a particular layer or merge layers, right? So when you're doing this for yourself, take it nice and easy. You will be able to do this, right? It will make sense to you. Build out your file, do something really simple, take maybe like 3 layers and just animate them, even if it's something going from side to side. Okay, so in that comes, I can see a little Photoshop icon. Now, if I wanted to go to Photoshop with that, if you remember from other things that I've shown you, like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and so on, there's a shortcut to quickly open a file in its parent editor. And that is to hold down the Alt or Option key and double click it. And do you know what? It even works in After Effects. If I hold down the Option key here and double click on the icon, you can see it jumps across to the file in Photoshop. And you can see there is the file. Before it was a space cat, it was Ginger. Okay, so, right, I'm going to go back to...
How did you pick these pictures? Were any animals harmed while doing that?
Just to reassure everyone.
No, I mean, I stopped dyeing them a few years ago. Now I just use Photoshop to do it because
okay,
it's very difficult to hold them under for the dye.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, that's why my arms are as long as they are.
All right. No.
And everybody knows I'm a cat
YouTube
lover.
has regulations, and I just need to check.
Yeah, no animals were harmed in there.
Okay,
it's very good. So I am going to drag Astro Cat in. Now, Astro Cat is bigger than I actually need at the moment. So I'm going to tap S because it's highlighted. You just have to watch the timeline there. And I don't need to add keyframes. This is going to be about, I'm just eyeballing this. And actually, I'm eyeballing it in relation to the top there. So I'll just move it to there for a moment. That's maybe just a bit small. So
but Tony, you do know that Tim is probably higher than the 2 of us standing on top of each other.
Oh yeah, he is.
Okay,
Man,
yeah.
Honestly, he's like if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, that big guy with the he's like that. Yeah, it's just amazing. It's incredible. His legs are a feat of engineering. Right, I'm so sorry, Tim, man.
Okay, that's the stream for today. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and have a good week. Goodbye.
I'm going to take the cat out of the viewable area. Now, you'll notice I no longer see the cat. That's because After Effects doesn't show you stuff ordinarily that's outside of the frame. Okay, and I've zoomed out a little bit here, which I've done by pinching on my iPad. There are some view controls down here, but you don't need to worry about that. Now I'm going to keep that. I said iPad, you know what I meant, my keyboard. So I'm going to keep that just there at the moment. Okay, I'm also going to tap P for position because I am going to change it. But you know what? I'm going to do it using Illustrator. Ooh. So I'm going to pop back to Illustrator. Okay, and I am going to get my curvature pen tool. Shift and backtick or tilde for that, okay? But anyway, it lives next to the pen tool just here. And the reason I'm going to use this is because it's really easy. I'm going to click just here. It doesn't matter what layer I'm on because the path isn't staying. Then I'm going to come up to that kind of apex just there and click again. Oh, I've accidentally activated that thing. So it does matter a little bit what layer you're on. Now I'm going to just add a new layer just for temporarily. We'll try that again, this time with feeling. So I'll click just here, come up to the apex just there, okay, and then move over to the other side and click just there. Ooh, I've got a path. Excellent. Now, the fill of the path and all of that stuff really doesn't matter. I am just going to get rid of it so you can just see the path, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to switch to my selection tool, okay, select the path, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to dodge back to After Effects. I'm going to click on the word position just here, and then I'm going to paste like so. And you'll see this path appearing just here. You'll also see 3 keyframes in there because they relate to each of the points, okay, that I specified. And if I drag the playhead across, you can see that the cat quite comfortably transits across the screen in that way. Now, that's going to be too quick.
This is very cunningly called a motion path.
It is called a motion path. Yep. And that's a quick and easy way to do it. And so if you've got a relationship between, if you know what the frame size is here in After Effects, quickly create one of those documents and you can create a motion path. And if you're doing something, I think one of the tutorials actually, I think in the Learn space is a car going along a road, and it shows how to quickly create that so the car goes along the road and also orients to the path. So it's actually changing its orientation to relate to the path. Right, okay, so this is going to happen too quickly. So if I hit the space bar just to play that, look, it's been fired out of something or bounced off a trampoline. So I'm going to space out that animation. Here's how I'm going to do it. If I hold down the Alt or Option key and drag, you can see it changes, okay, the relative space between those frames. Now, if I hit the space bar, you'll see that the cat quite happily makes its way across there like so. Okay, so it's doing that, but it is also just going off the screen. Now, there's a few things I could do to that. I could move the path like that as well, but there's something else I want to do. And it's at this point here, when the cat is at the top, I actually want to rotate it. So I'm going to tap R to get rotate. I am going to keyframe this. So I'll click on the stopwatch and then use stapler accident finger to rotate that across. Right, so by the way, you won't find the word stapler accident finger in any manuals. Yeah. Unless I wrote them, in which case they're definitely there. And then I'm going to tap U on my keyboard to expand all of those properties, because what I want to do is go back to the previous position keyframe just here. Okay, and then I'm going to add some rotation there. So I'm going to skew it back the other way. Then I'll navigate through those keyframes and then just rotate that around like so. So what will happen is the cat will rotate as it goes across the screen. Now, that's all well and good, but it does look a bit mechanical. Of course, things don't fly at that sort of speed, not in space, right, in a dead straight line. Yeah, they need to kind of, they need to wiggle, man, they need to wiggle. And this is something that you can do to add a bit of variation, because you could keyframe all of that. You'd go balmy if you had to change it. Yeah, but what you can do instead is add an effect called the Wiggler, which is my Sunday name, actually. Right, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to click inside the Effect and Presets panel in the search field, and I'm going to type wiggle. And it shows me a few different wiggles. There's gelatin, position, rotation is exactly what I want. So I'm going to drag that and drop it on Tim just there. And you'll see Tim's position already changes. You'll also notice that a new panel has opened up here. Okay, the Effect Controls panel. The project is still there. You can just move between them or use this arrow just here if you can't see them on your own screen. But this gives me controls. Now, again, that might look scary, but you don't have to deal with all of the controls at the same time. The only one I want to do here is change the value just at the top to start off with. So this is how many times it wiggles a second. Yeah. Now, I just want it to wiggle just a little bit each second. So I'm going to put a decimal in there. I'm going to put 0.2 just there, like so. Hit return to apply that value. Now let's play that out and see what happens. I'm just going to go back, take my cursor over this window, hold down Shift and hit the slash key to fit that to the frame. Now I'll press the space bar and it'll play, remember, slower because it's rendering the frames to start off with. So there you go, that's coming in. The cat's going across. Okay, and there's just some gentle variation. Okay, it's still meeting the points. It's still going between the points I've told it to, but it's just got a little bit of variation in between those things. Now, if I just stop that a second, take the playhead back to the rendered footage, right, there you go. Just a tiny bit of variation in there. Okay, it's just a little bit much though, so I'm going to change how many degrees it's going to change by. Let's make that, I don't know, something like 8. Sounds good. Let's just scrub that. There we go. That's nice and space-like. Excellent. Good. Right, so I'm going to go back to my project panel just here. I now need some more cats, so I'm just going to go ahead and how are we doing on time? We're okay, I think. We're going to go ahead here. We're going to get Space Cat 2. Okay, also known as Rufus, just there. That's going to come in as a composition, just in case I need to add anything to it. Okay, that's good. So Space Cat 2 is in there. That can come in to the whole scheme of things. Interesting. Where's it gone? Oh, it is there. Okay, but it's super big. So I'm just going to tap S and scale that down. So hopefully we can see it. And that's something wrong there. Let me do that again. Do you know what? In fact, I'm going to go to Space Cat 2's layers. No, it's all good. Try that one more time. I'll actually drag it into the timeline like so. Okay, and now this is interesting. This composition here has come in small, right? Something I wasn't watching for here. So I will go to the composite of all of those things there, and I'll bring that in. Like so. Again, weird with the time. Curious. Do you know what? I'm going to come back to the cat in a minute because it was obviously me on the import. Let's bring in a different file. Let's bring in
Rufus, one. Not again.
Just when you were working on the Rufus cat, it didn't work. And I'm sure that if you use Emma's cat, it'll work.
Yeah. But I'm going to do them in a minute. But first of all, let's get a bit more wiggle going on. So what we're going to do is we are going to bring in this weird thing with Catalina where it doesn't show you anything here. Tony Fancy Fridays PSD. I'll bring this in as footage. Okay, I am going to bring it in again as footage here. I'm going to choose a layer because I've got 2, Viking or Pirate. We need polls really on these things so they can choose interactively. But footage layer size just there, which is probably what I missed in the last one. And let's bring that in to the top just here. Whoa, way too big. Let's scale that down. Right. So about that big, I think something like that is good. I'm going to just drag it in the composition window here, or comp. Video people say comp, yeah, when they're working on something. So they like syllables, extra syllables, unless it's working, in which case it becomes truncated. So comp, just okay. Good, that's in. Let me just play head forward. So that's about.
When did you take that photo, Tony? You look very cereal box, Tony.
Oh. By the way, that gives me a perfect chance to talk about my new serial, which is launching.
I was like, what kind of transition are you going to find?
Well, basically, I am going to just scale this in. So I'm going to determine where it comes in, which is going to be around about here, actually. And I'm going to tap S for scale, which I think it's already on, actually. Now I'll keyframe it from there. Okay, I'm going to go back just a little bit in time just here. I am going to click and enter a value of 0. So it is basically non-existent just there, and very quickly scales up. Now, this is something else I could wiggle, but I'm going to do it manually. I'm actually going to take the size up above 36. I'm going to go ahead just a couple of frames like so and drop it back down 36. So you get a small bounce just there very quick as it comes in. It will go doing like that. There you go. Nice. Then I'm going to put in some rotation. So I'm going to tap R just here. I'm going to keyframe this and I'm going to rotate it just by a little bit. 7 one side, and then go for a wiggler, wiggle rotation, change the amount of rotation there to 11, and it can wiggle once a second. So it bounces in and then just happily starts wiggling. Super awesome. Great. Now let's try again for the cats. So I'll go back to my project window just here. Ooh, what happened there? For a minute, I thought After Effects had done a bunk. Right, let's go back. Let's try Emma's Space Cat.
Yeah, because I have to leave soon for the French stream, so I want to see my cat. I know, right?
We're going to get you in. No, that's interesting.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No.
No, what's going on there? Wow. Ooh. Ooh. Something has gone a bit awry. Now, that's weird. What happened?
It's not just my cat. Okay.
No, it's not just your cat.
Personal offense. Yeah, but Tim was fine. He broke it all because of the joke.
He did, yes. He's working in the background. I'm going to go with composition just here and keep the layer sizes. Okay, then I'm going to try and switch it to footage here.
Just so you know, Tony.
Yes, sir.
It's been about 15 to 20 minutes that we're not live anymore. So basically, you've been just speaking to Emma and I.
Are we still recording, though? Will it still record?
No, I'm just kidding. Come on.
Oh.
I'm panic. Oh, no. Panic.
Right. Something has gone very, very wrong with Space Cat 2. Just there is something very strange. So what I'm going to do is I am going to delete that inside the panel just here. Okay, I am going to jump back to the file and I'm going to open it up. Okay, that's cool. And just for the purposes of this, I'm going to flatten this. Okay, and save it and close it up. And then I'll go back and I'm going to open.
Can you not just drag the cat over to After Effects?
Yeah, I could do. I think it's better, though, for the minute just to keep everything nice and sweet with importing it. I think. I mean,
because one cool tip is if you drag out the little window and you can see the icon of the image.
Yeah.
You can drag that icon to whatever application.
Oh, from here?
No, from Photoshop.
Okay, go ahead.
Drag, just separate the window from its frame so we get the old kind of window.
Old window.
Yeah, okay, so you see, okay, take that, the PSD logo, and drag it over to InDesign, Illustrator, or, whatever.
Snazzy.
There you go.
Rufus Art Director.
That's a bit too draggy for me, though, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm much more clicky. Much more. Come on.
Just do it your way, Tony.
I've already told you my lowest billable segment is 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I kind of like to. There we are. So Emma is now in the house. So let's scale Emma down just a little bit. Just there. There you are, Emma.
No.
You are there in the space.
I made it.
And let's just go ahead and pick up Rufus just here. Okay, that's cool.
And it's going to be my cue to go as Rufus comes in and we're all reunited.
All right, Emma.
Adolf. Yeah.
Bye.
See you on the other side.
Bye, Emma.
Monday, even though it's a bank holiday, but we will.
We're streaming. We are. We will be there Monday, and I'm going to hop off to France now. So
Nice.
have a great weekend.
Take care. Bye.
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 Rufus, I'm going to do this one your way because there's something wrong somewhere. I don't know why, but I'm just going to go ahead and drop that into After Effects. Just there. I think I'll choose composition, retain layer sizes. Just here, that's fine. Good. There's something wrong with that file. I think the file has become corrupted.
Ooh.
That's where the problem is, I think. So yeah, it's not loading.
Okay, don't worry about my cat.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to. We'll just do. We'll just stick with Space Cat 2. Don't know what has happened to it though. No, Space Cat 3 rather, or Emma as it is affectionately known. Right. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to the point where the cats start to come in, which is around about this point here. Okay, in there, I'm going to tap P for position. Okay, and then I'm going to wind it forward just a little bit. Okay, add a keyframe and wind the playhead back. Okay, and then just drag this downwards. I'm going to hold down Shift. Okay, you can see that motion path just there. So on it comes. Okay, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of wiggle rotation onto that cat. Yeah, so from there on, it looks like it's more in space because it's floating around like so. So we'll just change the number of degrees because that's too harsh. Let's go with 14 and we will wiggle it 0.3 of a second. There we go, something like that. There we are. So we'll just play that out. Now a bit of wiggle there like so. I'm actually going to, because I want two cats on the other side, and you'll see why in just a second. Okay, I'm going to go for Space Cat 3 here again. Okay, I am going to scale this one down like that, so slightly smaller. I am then, let me see, I should be able to flip that actually. If I go, there we go. That's not going to work. Okay, right, well that's fine for now anyway, given that something
horizontally, no?
Sorry?
Can you flip
I
it
could actually, yeah, if I unlink them. Good idea, actually. There we go. So let's go back out. There we are. That'll do. Good thinking, Batman. Perfect. Right. So now I've got that. I am going to tap position. Actually, do you know what? No, I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this cat go slightly lower than the other cat here. I'm then going to tell the cat to animate along with the other cat. Now I've got a small drop down here, and this is called parenting. Now there's a couple of different ways. There's a thing called the pick whip here that you can click and drag to things, but you can also use this list. And I'm going to choose Space Cat 3, the other Space Cat 3, and I could rename them, by the way, if I wanted to. But now watch what happens. Ta-da! They both come on at the same time. Now this one won't have the wiggle on it because I've only parented the position right here, but I can just drop wiggle on there really quickly. I could also copy and paste that between those things. So now they'll both wiggle in space. That's going to be too much, that 30 degrees. So let's make this one 11 because Rufus is so nice and calm. And we'll make this happen.
And while you're doing that, I just want to remind everybody that we do have a Discord for this Adobe Live from the Sofa with UK artists. And we're like reaching almost, oh, thank you, Tim. Tim is in my mind. As soon as I start speaking about that, he pastes the link into the chat. And that's a really cool way to stay in touch in between streams. The community is building there as well. And remember, we are here every day of the week from noon to 1 UK time to engage with you, the community, to engage with UK artists, and to bring all of you together, you know, to start the day creatively or have a creative lunch break. And yes, and to be together in these trying times and be inspired. And every Friday it's with Tony Harmer.
Yay! I'm honored to be here. I love it.
Yeah, you did so well the first time, so I thought,
Oh, thank you.
Why not?
Right, so I've just jumped in here. I'm just dropping this down beneath AstroCat for a second. So as AstroCat or Tim goes across there, this fades in. So I've just done some keyframe opacity here. Okay, and then the next step from something like this, we'll pretend this is mission complete here just for now. Okay, the next step from that would be to render that out. Now, there's a couple of different ways we can do it. But before we do that, just one quick tip. Everybody's computer performs differently. Okay, so not everybody's got the latest and greatest machines, and this can become a little bit processor intensive. Now, something you can do to help you while you're working with that is change the resolution of the preview. It doesn't change your output, just changes the resolution of the preview. Okay, so if, for example, I thought this is really, really struggling to render this, I could drop this down to half or a third or a quarter resolution, or even a custom resolution here. But if I go to half resolution, you'll notice that you get some like anti-aliasing things going on with vectors. So you see those, but it isn't real. It's only temporary, right? It's doing it just to make your computer perform faster. So remember, you can do that, okay? And you can set it to automatic, which actually allows After Effects to kind of work out when it's struggling. But sometimes you do have to override, but that can be helpful to mean that you don't have to do it. Okay, so now I've got all of those things to do. What I need to do is to render that out. So I would go up to the File menu here. I would come down to Export. Now, if I choose Add to Render Queue, basically it can render me out one format. If I just choose that, here, this is the render queue. You can see other things that I've rendered here before. In fact, if I just clear those things down, it looks like I've got quite a few in there. Okay, but anyway, you choose your render settings here. So you choose the output module, means what sort of movie do you want to make? Well, you've got a few choices there. Okay, and then you choose where it's going to go by clicking just here and so on. So that's one way. But if you want far more power, or if you want to output maybe like 3 different resolutions at the same time. So I put stuff together for Adobe Stock, and I do stuff in standard definition, high definition, and ultra high definition. What I do is I go to the export menu and choose Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. And that way you can render out all those things at the same time. And I tend to do mine when I go off for a break. If I've got like a whole bunch of things to do, you have a thing called the queue. I don't know whether it's going to launch in time for us to see it. Oh, it is actually here. There we go.
Yeah, and
so
there
it's
we
just
go.
Been added to the queue. So
Surprisingly fast.
Surprisingly fast. Right. So if I wanted to duplicate that, for example, this is typically my workflow. Right. I get the 3 resolutions. Now, when I'm doing Adobe Stock, I do H.264 here. Now, this has got no audio, so I could drag on UHD. It's got to have enough pixels in there for it to do it, by the way, but as a lot of that's vector, it'll be fine. And then I can drag on HD onto the one above it, and then I can drag on like 4K or whatever here, and then I just hit this play at the top, and then down here you'll see it start rendering. You can go and have a nice cup of tea, yeah, and when you come back, the files will be where you tell them to be.
Will you post it on your Twitter or wherever?
This movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll do the complete one with the Space Cat sticker and all of that stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, absolutely. But that's
awesome.
It. We're done. I hope it's inspired you to kind of.
Yeah, no, I think the important thing with After Effects is the first time you open it, you say, "Oh my God, no, this is not for me. This is too complicated." So I invite everybody to think about the first day you opened Photoshop in your life, and you had the exact same feeling. Oh my God, this is too complicated. But now you're using it almost on a daily basis. And the same thing goes for After Effects. And in my many years of talking with graphic designers and creative people, it is always like in the back of everybody's mind to start animating stuff. And I think After Effects is the perfect solution for that, because it is, like Tony said, it's like Photoshop on wheels. You know, the only thing that's different is there's a timeline that you can control, and it's much fun. And I was just like everybody else, I guess, at the beginning. Oh, After Effects, no way I'm going to touch this because it's
same
complex.
Same.
Yeah, and then you start playing with it and start doing stuff. And then you see, oh, well, you know, now that I've understood what a timeline is, I've understood what this stopwatch is and what these keyframes are, what a motion path is, it's actually all falls into place. And you can start doing, yeah, like some people said in the chat, like this looks like the Monty Python animations and stuff like that. Yeah, do things like that to start with, you know.
Have fun with it.
It doesn't need to be, I don't know, Star Wars, you know, like special effects, okay?
However, you can do that, Rufus.
Yeah, I know you
waste
can.
Paper basket and cut the front out of it, put it on your head so it's nice and dark.
Yep.
Then make some overlays in Illustrator. You can do your own Iron Man.
You can do the lightsaber in After Effects and all of that stuff. But yeah, start small. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Well, Tony,
Yes, sir.
this hour is over again, and this week is over. So I want to thank everybody here in the community who joined us again for this stream and this week. We will be back on Monday, of course, from noon to 1 here on behance.net/live with other UK artists for the whole of next week. And on Friday, I'll be here again with Tony. And it's just going to be you and me, Tony, because Emma is moving. Yep. So she's not going to be in the stream with us. So Tony, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, and thank you to the community. And I will see everybody on Monday.
Bye. And I'm launching Discord right now. See you later.
Discord.
Bye.
Yep. All right.